Hey, welcome back to Working Class Customs YouTube channel. Welcome back once again to Stable B, our favorite place. What do you know? Today, we're going to talk about what makes a race bike. In the stable here, we do have a street bike all the way over here on our right. We have what I call a track bike, not quite a race bike. And now, in the garage, I don't know if you'll recognize her under her new dressings, we'll call them. We'll get to that in a second. We have our race bike. So, this is our 2019 Aprilia RSV4 1100 factory that we have just spent, honestly, quite a bit of time converting over. That's why the garage is kind of a mess right now. I apologize for that, but we're not gonna let the grind stop. We gotta get this converted so that we can race it next season. So I'm gonna walk you guys through today what makes a race bike, what the difference between, say, a street, a track, and a race bike actually is, the key differences there, what you kind of need. And I do want to reference you to a video that I did with a tech for a race series. Works over at USBA, does tech there, walked us through how to pass tech with a race bike. So that's gonna kind of go hand in hand with this video. We're not gonna get down to the nitty and gritty on this one, but he does in that video. So go check that out. Link will be up there. Also, please subscribe to the channel, throw a like on the video while you're there. And then if you guys have any comments, anything I'm missing while I'm going throughout, once again, not a certified mechanic, first race season, first race bike build, so I could easily miss something. I'd love to hear that feedback. Also down in the comments for my club racers out there that have been doing this for a while. Been doing it a lot longer than me. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get you guys introduced to this girl. If you've been on the channel before, you already know her. She just looks a little bit different. And I'll walk you through everything that I did and the key components of a race bike. So let's get into the video. This is 2019 Aprilia RSV4 1100 factory. I did just say that. Also, you'll notice there's an oil pan on the ground and there's some tools down there and some safety wire. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and I will put out another video later. How to safety wire, that's why you'll find that there is no safety wire here on this caliper, because we still gotta do that. But we'll go over everywhere else that there is. First up, I wanna say I got these fairings used. We built this whole bike on a budget, minus the fact that I already had the bike paid for. Bike itself, not cheap, but fairings are used. And they were yellow, so we went ahead and rattle canned them, so I'm not gonna get too up close to them. And if you notice blemishes, well, over there are 4 cans of spray paint, and that is all we used to finish up this entire bike, from completely yellow to the black and blue that it is, which I think it turned out pretty good. Got a nice little, you know what, I'll give you an up close, who cares? Got a nice little kind of blue down on the bottom, blue on the back, and that sweet fade from blue to black, and that rhymed also. Also have custom brake calipers up here in blue. If you want more info on that, let me know, I'll give you more. But, all right, so a race bike. The first thing you'll notice, there's no headlights on this. If we come around to the back, swinging around to the back, there's no taillights and no license plate. That's gonna be number 1, race bodywork. Now, do you actually have to have race bodywork to race a bike? Truthfully, the answer is no. You actually don't have to have full race body work. You can actually still tape up your headlights for most clubs. They will put that out in their rule book. I also, please, if you're building a race bike to race it next season, read your rule book. That's where you'll get all the answers. But the truth of it is that you don't, in fact, have to have race body work. But there is one key important factor that we're about to talk about that you do have to have, which comes with race body work. And we'll go over a couple more benefits of race body work here in a second. Again, no headlights, no taillights, cool, whatever. The important thing here is this guy right here. So street fairings, we'll go check out a Gixxer here in a second, are only gonna come back to about here, and they're actually gonna be like nice, wide, and open on the bottom. If you look down in there, that is what we call a belly pan. So that belly pan, if this engine decides to blow up, or one of these hoses decides to pop off, or you got some gas leaking out of your gas tank, you got some coolant leaking out, there's a bunch of overflow lines. They all are directed to this belly pan, so that while you're out on the racetrack, all of the fluids that could end up coming out of the bike end up down the belly pan and are collected in there instead of on the asphalt where they could affect other people in the ride. So belly pan, absolutely necessary for a race bike. Full race fairings, not necessarily, but these race fairings are made of fiberglass, which do tend to take hits a lot better, and they're cleaned up very, very nicely with duct tape. Or if you're crazy, you can do like some fiberglass repair. But anyway, fiberglass vice plastic. If you want to go super crazy, you get the carbon fiber fairings. If you got the money for it, go for it. But the fiberglass is great because they repair a lot easier and they don't destroy themselves like the plastic do. So a lot of people will build a race bike and they'll keep their street fairings around, which I did. Also, mine are in a box. They're sitting there waiting for me. And then later you'll see this race bike pop up on Facebook Marketplace and it'll say something like, race bike has everything to be converted back to street bike. Yeah, usually that's true. That's another great reason to get race fairings if you're thinking about converting them back to a street bike later. But if you're gonna race the thing, just freaking race it. Don't worry too much about that, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Let me know if you have a different opinion. Throw it in the comments below. Getting back into the race bike. That's the first thing, race bodywork. Second thing that you'll see here, back down to the belly pan area, there's no kickstand on this. You're not allowed to have a kickstand. Also, most of your race bodywork won't actually have room for a kickstand. You put it on and your kickstand doesn't come down anymore. So you gotta take that kickstand off. They don't want that falling off. You could potentially wire it up. I have raced this bike before with it wired up. You could do that, but you wanna just take that kickstand off. Key note, if you have this bike specifically, or really any Aprilia from the year of 2009 to 2020, you do not have to take your gas tank off to get to your kickstand elimination plug, or your kickstand plug. The wire comes up right behind this panel. You just take this panel off. That's where that wire lives. On that bike over there, you did have to take the gas tank off to get to like literally everything. So maybe not. Might have just been under the seat, but I had the gas tank off, it was easier. Anyway, no kickstand, that's number 2. Race bodywork, no kickstand. The third thing we're gonna talk about is what you can see right here. I kinda already mentioned, and this is safety wire. Once again, I linked a video at the beginning of this to Race Day Tech and what's required. I think there's some safety wire down here, a little bit right there. There's some up here, and there. And you'll see a little guy right there, and another guy right there. Safety wire. All right, so once again, I linked that video because Josh is gonna walk us through in that video exactly what is required for what needs to be safety wired. Front and the back of the bike, all the way to the front. He's gonna tell you everything that needs to be safety wired, and maybe a little bit on how to do it. I will be putting out a video later, so keep an eye out for that, and I'll link that once I have it. Anyway, that video will walk us through how to safety wire, what type of wire I use, and all of those things. I don't want to clog up this video with that. So, safety wire, be on the lookout for that. But, back to the bike. So we talked about safety wire, we talked about race fairings, we talked about no kickstand. Now we're gonna talk about this little guy. This little guy is called a brake lever guard. I'm also gonna have a separate video on brake lever guards alone. But, if you're building a race bike, you gotta have brake lever guard. That's all I'm gonna say for that. And then basically, to finish this thing off, you'll see this up here, and I'm not quite done yet. That's why it's just yellow. I don't have a heat gun, so the vinyl doesn't look that great. I gotta add a couple more underneath, and sometimes you can put them on the tail, back in the back on either side. But when you sign up for your race license, you will pick out a number. The reason I don't have a number on here yet is because I haven't gotten my new license with the club that I'm gonna race with. So who knows what number will be available. But novice riders, so your first season, usually gonna require a yellow background. Expert riders are gonna have a white background, and if you're racing with Moto America or higher up, you would have a red background. So that's why we got the yellow here. We'll get a number on there eventually, once I decide what exactly it's gonna be, and then we'll add a couple more. They do have to have one on each side, and there are usually size requirements and requirements on the colors and everything like that. All of that can be found in the rule book. So check out your rule book. I did just mention your rule book. I think I mentioned it a couple times throughout the video actually, and I really I don't know the right word for that. I apologize. But it would be really good if you go read your rule book when you're building the bike, when you're wondering about what all you need to do. The only other thing I'll mention about this model specifically, once again, I don't want to just call out like, oh, this is only about this bike. It's kind of just a general about the things you need to build a race bike. But there was a voltage regulator relocation bracket that I had to buy. You can find those at AF1 Racing. I'll have a link for that down in the description. The voltage regulator on this mounts to the fairings. And when you're putting race fairings on, you don't want those mounted to that. So there's a relocation bracket, you mount the bracket. The key here, the reason I'm making this video was to make it kind of simple for you to have a quick list of what all you need to do to your race bike. The only thing that we didn't really talk about, well, one, just general tech, but also your coolant. So you can't have glycol coolant out on the racetrack. Most track days also don't allow that, but some don't care. So I only bring that up because if you've been doing track days and your specific org didn't care, your club will. You're not gonna race with glycol coolant. So there are plenty of options out there. I'll pull up what I used. Threw in this Enginized Pure Performance Racing Coolant. Pretty good stuff. You don't have to buy that. There's also like water wetter. You can just run pure water, deionized water, DI water. If you're gonna run DI water in your bike, you need to be emptying that out in between rounds, at least in between seasons, absolutely in between seasons. Probably better if you can in between rounds and put normal coolant in it and run it with normal coolant a little bit, because that water is going to rust the inside of your engine, your coolant lines, and then that'll build up and it'll be bad. So you wanna run something through that'll flush all that out, or just do a water flush on it routinely, which is why I decided to go with that. I can have a link for that also. I found it on Amazon. Well, I found it elsewhere, bought it on Amazon. But that engine ice specifically is like very non-corrosive, against anti-corrosion is the word I'm looking for. Anti-corrosion coolant, does non-glycol. And so safe for a race bike, safe for the environment, safe for your kids, safe for your cats, safe for everyone is what it says on there, I think. Yeah, rated E for everyone. So anyway, coolant, gotta change out your coolant. Other things that I actually don't have on here yet, you're gonna need a transponder. You can sometimes rent those from your club, but not always. So make sure you check with your club on what their rules are, what transponders they require, and then go pick yourself up a transponder and mount it to your bike. All right, the last thing I wanna talk about is just general tech of your bike. So you go into your race season, your first race season, the rules that from the track day, if you went into a track day, you had to go to tech. It's only worse. And I don't mean worse because that's the wrong word, but it's more important. You are out racing your bike now. You need to have that bike safe for everyone else out on the racetrack. Don't be thinking about you, be thinking about everyone else that's out there, and you don't want to ruin their day by not having your bike up to snuff. So while you're going through, it's awesome to put on race fairings. It's sweet to paint them with a rattle can. It's sweet to put in this new coolant, put on brake lever guard, safety wire some stuff, and say, hey, I got a race bike. Don't forget that you got to have good brake pads. You need to make sure that your engine isn't burning too much oil or oil at all. You want to make sure that all the nuts and bolts and everything on the engine that you touch, not just the engine, but the entire bike, are nice and tight. So your levers need to be tight. Your rear sets need to be tight. If you're changing your own tires, before you safety wire those bolts, make sure they're all torqued down. Just make sure that safety-wise, your bike is gonna pass a tech beyond what you would for a track day. If you're already super meticulous during a track day, that's great. Add a level to it for a race weekend. That's what I have to say. So this is just a quick introduction on a race bike, kind of the key components make up a difference. I want to make this nice, short, and sweet, and not go into too much detail. But if you guys have any questions about race bikes, or specifically about this model and converting it, let me know down in the comments. I'll answer any of those questions. I can also put out more videos. You can also always message me on Instagram at JKMoto Podcast, and I can answer any and all questions there. If you're looking for, hey, what club do I race with? Or, I can't find the rule book, or whatever it is, I'm happy to do that research for you, figure it out, work with you, and get those questions answered. So thank you guys for being here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.